All right, we're live. And I am here with Mr. Scott Baker, and we're just going to have a little
Um,
conversation and get to know each other just a little bit better.
okay. For the NSA and FBI guys listening in, don't worry. I'm not going to talk anything covert or classified. So, go get a cup of coffee.
I wouldn't know what to ask.
So, how are you, Hadley?
I'm doing pretty good.
Was that Boo I heard in the background during the Watching Wyrd?
You heard me talking to Boo, but the whining, I don't know if that was here or if that was someone else.
Oh, okay. I
I
could
didn't
hear
know.
the whining through the whole thing, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh,
I don't know if it was Mayhem or if Rich had his puppy there.
all I could think of was somebody like, pay attention to me.
No, it was not Boo. Boo's been in the doghouse today. So how is Roxy doing? Is she still
Wait,
fitting
wait a
in
minute,
good?
wait a minute. Why is Boo in the doghouse?
Oh, it's just Boo.
Okay.
He's
Roxy is doing very well. She's made friends with Archer. Hi, Londa. She's made friends with Archer. The two of them now, like when anybody's making something in the kitchen, the two of them sit in the kitchen beside each other and beg for food. She loves cuddling in bed at night. The minute when I get in, I gotta like roll her to the center of the bed and then hold her in place and sneak in. The only one that hasn't taken a shine to her yet is Michonne, the black cat. And that's like weird because the other night, Roxy came down into the study and the two of them were rubbing heads against each other. And then Michonne jumped up on the cat stand by my desk. And when Roxy walked by, Michonne hissed at her. So,
yeah. I've had pets like that. I had two cats that my white cat just acted like she just couldn't tolerate the other one. But if you like came in and they didn't know you were home, they'd be sitting next to each other.
oh, yeah, yeah. And then they give you that look and they like separate, like, oh shit,
Yeah.
we got caught. Like a pair of teenagers. So you
Yeah.
can see Michonne's tail.
Hey, Michonne.
So, what do you want to know about me?
There's so much. You're just such an interesting person. You're just so
Oh,
versatile.
you're so
It's just
sweet.
like you're talking about the photos that you uploaded from Area 51. And
Yeah.
I was like, what can you tell me about Area 51? Because
I don't have any photos from Area 51. Everybody, my cousin, I love my cousin Robert dearly, but he's convinced I was CIA, so I know about the aliens. So every time, like when I used to live in Virginia or Florida, I'd come up here, we'd go for a drive, and he'd turn the radio up in the car, and he'd ask me, "What do you know about them?" And I'm an ass sometimes, and I'd say to him, "Rob, I can't tell you anything about them. They'll kill us." And one night, it was a Christmas. It was right before Christmas, and I was up visiting, and my cousin Robert and a friend of his were arguing. They're big theorists that the moon landing never took place, and they were sitting there debating back and forth. Well, this proves that the landing never took place, and if you look at this proved the landing never took place. So after about 20 minutes, I pretended to get mad at them, and I says, "You two have no idea what the hell you're talking about." I says, "We landed on the moon. It was part of the deal. We gave them asylum. They gave us the technology. It's why we did it. And the Russians and the Chinese and the Japanese and the Europeans haven't gotten there yet." And I walked out of the room. And a minute later, his
oh,
wife comes in and she goes, "You are such an asshole. That's all they're talking about."
I love it. I love it.
I had a friend of mine who years ago, before the computers became small, when they used to have those big mainframes and you had to put them in these gigantic refrigerated containers to keep them cool. We had one of those in the basement of Langley. And somebody had gotten a sign made, a professional sign, and wrote, "Hey, Audrey,
Hey, Audrey.
thank you." And somebody had gotten one of the professional signs made and put on an alien cryogenic chamber. And a friend of mine, he had a summer employee who all summer hounded him. "You got to show me the aliens. You got to show me the aliens." So on his last day there was a summer intern. My friend says to him, "Okay, I'm going to show you something. Okay, if you tell anybody, we're probably going to both be dead." So he took him around the bill. I mean, he took him down service elevators. He walked him through the sub basement. And then he finally comes up and shows the kid. And the kid's like, oh, because he sees alien cryogenic chamber. You know, the kid went around and told everybody.
It's hilarious. So what you're saying is, despite the stereotype that CIA agents actually do have a sense of humor.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. I was in one office. We used to play the worst practical jokes on each other. We had all these, like, I had one friend of mine. I used to have this. His cubicle was right by my office, and I had this cow, a Christmas cow that when you squeeze it, it played moo 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 moo. And he said to me, he says, "Thank God when I come back from holiday, that goddamn cow won't be here anymore. Christmas will be over." So I took it home with me, Christmas holiday. I got his work phone number, and one day I just sat there, called it up, and I got the answering machine. I played it, hung up. Called back a minute later. He like I had 30 of those messages when he got back. We had one friend who was a huge played the worst practical jokes. He went on a 30-day TDY. So we went out, we bought bags of those the styrofoam macaroni and a huge roll of shipping plastic. And we sent an email to everybody in the group. If you want to get Rich back, just come over and put something on his head. They shrink wrapped everything except his computer, because they didn't want it to melt. They shrink wrapped his chair. They shrink wrapped his everything in his office. One person even shrink wrapped every paperclip he had in the desk. We shrink wrapped the desk. We shrink wrapped the floor covering that the chair goes on. And then 2 days before he came back, we shrank wrapped his cubicle and we filled it with the macaroni.
It's funny.
Yeah, so that's your tax dollars at work.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about your childhood.
I actually,
and I ask for a reason. Is you are one of the funniest people that I know. You always just have these little quirky things that you say, and you're just so full of light and love. And I love it. And were you always like this? And
oh yeah. I actually had a really good childhood. I grew up in a great home. There was, there was no spanking, there was no beating. I grew up in a very lovely home. My father was a lower middle class working stiff. We didn't have a lot, but whatever we had, my father would come home like during hi Mike. My father would come home during summer vacation. He would come home, and after dinner, he would take us almost every night somewhere. Whether we went to the park, whether we went to the beach. Sometimes we'd go up to McDonald's and just get like a donut and a cup of coffee. We were a family. We played games together. Every year we went on vacation. My father was an ex-Marine. He kept on telling me, Semper Fi, give them one chance and then take them down. My mother was a sweetheart. She wanted to go to college, but she never got to. And she fed me. I'm a monster kid because of her. For some reason, I got hooked on sci-fi, old sci-fi, Jules Verne, H.G. Wells. She went out and bought me any book I wanted. She'd give me the books, H.G. Well, when I was through with H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, she let me watch the monster movies, Frankenstein, all of that stuff as a kid. I had all the monster models. I had all the monster models. I had posters on my wall. And when I got older, I had posters of Farrah Fawcett. And, when I started to get older and I started to get into modern horror, my mother's the one that got me hooked on modern horror. One Christmas, she got me this new book by this unknown author. It was about that's sweet, Londa. It was by Graham Masterton. This guy had never published a novel before. He used to do sex manuals before this. And it was about Huh?
Sex
Yeah,
manuals?
sex manuals. Yeah, he used to do those like like the old Dr. Ruthheimer. You take this and you put this in
I was
here.
gonna say, people need manuals.
And it was about this ancient Indian medicine man who killed himself during the occupation of the tribal lands. And he comes back to New York as he's being born on the back of this woman's neck. And they're not knowing what it is, they take x-rays of it. Well, naturally, it's a fetus. So now it's this deformed entity that breaks through the back of her neck and like raises terror in a hospital. I'm 10 years old. I'm reading about this thing ripping the girl's back open and coming through, demons coming through portals and biting off some guy's hand. I'm like fascinated. The book was The Manitou. If you've never read it, read it.
I think I saw either the movie or I've read the book.
The movie sucked. Don't watch the movie. The ending of the movie was as horrible as the ending of Children of the Corn. But the book, I stayed up one night, all night, reading that book. It was just so fascinating. And ever since, when I decided I liked writing, my mother would go out and buy me pens and notebooks. She was always there, when I wanted to be a teacher. She's like, okay, let's be a teacher. She wasn't, oh no, you should be a doctor, or you should be a lawyer. She was always pushing me to be happy. I'm what I am today because of my mother and my father.
Well, that's
So if you
wonderful.
don't like it, blame them. And as for
Y'all
the
hear that?
attitude, I just developed that over the years. I try not to let things get me down. Of course I do. When I'm in a bad mood, it's like even Satan's like, oh, screw it, I'll be back tomorrow. But if you can't laugh at things, what are you going to do? I'm the type, like when I'm in the hospital, I had to be rushed up the hospital once because I couldn't breathe because of asthma. I was making jokes. My wife's like, how could you be making jokes? It's like, why? I'm not going to die. Hey, Corinne, hi from Australia. I love Australia. What part are you from? I visited Sydney once.
I have a friend from Tasmania.
Oh, I went there back in the 90s, and my friend of mine met me, and he goes, you want a beer? And I said, oh, God, no, Foster sucks. And he laughed at me, and he goes, no. I said, a beer. And he introduced me to the fine art of Australian beers. That was one trip I barely remember. But
I bet.
Got to get there someday.
Years ago, I used to write, which we talked, I think I've probably told you about. I used to do play by email, which kind of got me writing. And one of the guys that I wrote with was a phenomenal writer. I wish I would stayed in touch with him. But because I was about 28 at the time. This guy was like 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
He was from Australia, but he was a tattoo artist. But he was one of the best writers I've ever read.
And it's funny because when I went to Australia, everybody warned me, oh, they're not going to like you. They're going to treat you like crap. Right now, they don't like Americans. And everywhere I went, I was treated so nice, and I couldn't understand it. And, and people would be friendly to me, like, hey, try these things for free. And if you like it, we'll order you some. And my last day there, I figured it out because I was sitting in a restaurant, and the waiter came up to me and said, I got to ask, what part of Australia are you from? I can't place your accent. And that's when I figured it out. They thought my Boston accent was from Australia. They thought I was like from the outback or something. So,
No, there he is. He's back.
Oh, did I phase out?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Welcome back.
I don't know what part of the story I phased out on, but everybody was asking, was so nice to me. And my last day, the guy asked me, one of the waiters says to me, I've got to ask, wait 1 second, Audrey. I've got to ask, what part of Australia are you from? Are you from the outback? Because of my accent, they thought I was Australian. So, come here. Oh, stop bitching. This is Michonne. Say hi, Michonne.
She's gorgeous.
She is. She's partly feral. She was born to a feral cat, and a friend of ours, a neighbor of ours in Florida, brought the whole family in. And so she was only outside for like 1 or 2 days, but she still got feral in her, you can tell. So
Well, they say that cats are the only animals that have domesticated themselves, so I'm guessing that Michonne is living that life.
yes. Well, Michelle, I put a cat stand right by my desk, and there's many a night that I'm like typing with one hand, and you can see I'm petting her with the other. So, and if I stop petting her, she'll stand up, and then I'll get the little paw tapping on me.
Well, I had cats for the majority of my life, and
Uh,
I want to say when I got Domino, she was probably 3, and both of my cats that I had at the time, they were senior citizens at that time. They passed away, like, within probably 16 months of each
uh,
other, and then from Domino had just her behavior went down so much that we ended up adopting a German Shepherd, and that German Shepherd was pregnant, and so that started the dogs, and, I'd had a dog as a child, but my mom wouldn't let him live with us inside,
mm,
so now I'm just, like, got all the pets. I miss having a cat, but I just don't
mm.
know that, the shepherds would do as well with a cat.
I didn't name her Audrey. My daughter did, and I think she named her after an anime character. So, but yeah, no, we got I never had pets. Well, I had a cat growing up. It was my mother's cat, but it died when I was about 10. And then, as a kid, I had gerbils and hamsters. I didn't get my first pet, a rabbit, until I was almost 30 years old. And we had 6 rabbits. I brought 4 of them with me down to Florida. And then I adopted Walter and Bella, my wife's dogs. And then we adopted the cat, Archer. And he loved playing with the rabbits. They didn't like it, but he loved it. He didn't touch the 2 older rabbits because he knew they were old and they were frail. But we had one younger rabbit, and he'd come into the room and he'd sit there, and all of a sudden the back end would start. He'd run across the floor, tackle her, roll her over 2 or 3 times, gently bite her on the neck, and then run out of the room. And then she'd look at me like, what the hell did you do to me? And then that same rabbit was this tiny little tan one. And my dog, Bella, must have thought it was her puppy, because Bella would come in and she'd get behind her and she'd use her paws and she'd push little Willow. And then she'd put her paws beside her, lay down, and she'd groom her. And this poor little rabbit's looking at me with this gigantic dog tongue licking her.
Well, Scott, so I know one of the things with your writing is you've first off, you've got a phenomenal list of books that you've
Thank you.
written. What genres do you only write under Scott Baker, or do you have a pen name that you write under as well?
I
Or
I
don't
used
ask, don't tell?
No, I used to have a pen name when I wrote when I wrote my young adult series. But I finally got to the point it was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like doing twice the marketing. So I got rid of that pen name. I now write all of my horror, sci-fi, fantasy under the name Scott M. Baker. I do have on Vella, and I'll put the link to it on my Scott Baker's Realm of Zombies, Vampires, and the Paranormal, an espionage novel I wrote under a different name, I think Robert Lansing or something like that. And see, I started writing techno thrillers and espionage. I started that in the 1990s. I did a couple of novels which were so bad no one has ever read them. I just refused. It's like, if you read these novels, you would never pick up a book of mine again. And then around 1997, no, 98, 99, I wrote a techno thriller because I spent about 10 years doing North Korea issues, and I worked on nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles and bioweapons for much of my career. So I wrote this novel about North Korea producing 5 nuclear weapons. They test one, and then they tell the United States, we've hidden the other 4 in the United States. If you do not get out of South Korea in 48 hours, we're going to set them off. I got an agent. He loved the book. He had it with he never told me the name, but he had it with a big name publishing house in New York, and 9/11 hit. And the market for espionage and techno thrillers dried up like that overnight. So I spent 2 years fighting the war on terrorism. I was being shipped all over the Middle East. And then when I came back, I thought, well, what should I do? And, it was like, well, I love horror. I've read horror. I've watched horror all my life. Let me start writing horror novels.
Do you think you'll go back to the espionage?
No.
What about your novel that was going to be published? What are you going to do with it?
Parts of that novel made it into the Vela novel that I put up, Mag. It's called Mag. It's on Vela, Mutant Assassin Group. It's got a few horror elements in it, but it deals mostly with biological weapons, terrorism, things like that. I wouldn't do the other one because when I wrote it, Kim Jong-il was in power. And everything back then fit. That's more than 20 years ago. Everything in that novel is outdated. I'd have to completely rewrite it. And plus, I've got my name established in horror. Actually, I like horror a little better because you have to be perfect in espionage.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, if you put the front door at Langley head facing in the wrong direction, everybody knows about it. But you can do what you want with zombies and vampires. Nobody.
Well, and exactly. That's why I like writing what I write is I can take creative license with a lot.
Yeah. And then I also have the problem that I've got to get every one of my books cleared by the Central Intelligence Agency.
Oh, well,
I send it in. And then the one that got me was when I did Mutant Assassin Group. I sent it in. And I said to myself, they're going to tear this book apart. I have a scene in there where a good friend of mine who was not a government employee gave me the details on how to make a radiological bomb. That's a large terrorist weapon filled with radioactive material. You might not kill a lot of people when it explodes, but you're going to contaminate that area for a couple of thousand years. I wrote down how to make Ebola pox, which is the Ebola virus mixed with, the lethality of Ebola mixed with the infectiousness of smallpox. All of this stuff. You want to know what the one thing they got pissed off about and told me I couldn't do? I couldn't use the word Delta Force. That was top secret. I said to them, have you ever watched the Chuck Norris? Oh, you can't use Delta Force. Fine. So. But I enjoyed writing it. I don't think I'll go back to espionage. I mean, it was fun writing it while I was in there because I knew things. But I've been out of the government now for 9 years. I loved it when I was there. Don't get me wrong. The last 10 years were the best 10 years of my life. The things I was doing, the places I was going to see, they were shipping me out for training courses at biological weapon facilities. I was going to see nuclear power plants. I was going to see where I actually once got to stand in a room. And if you read Nurse Alyssa 8, the scene at the end, near the end, where they go into the underground bunker with the thousands and thousands of stored nuclear warheads, that exists. I was in that bunker. I was standing there surrounded by enough nuclear warheads that it could have wiped out the world.
Wow.
That's the stuff I like. Don't send me to Paris. I don't want to go to Paris. Anybody can go to Paris. I want to go see the strange, the weird places. I've been to Paris. When I was When I was 21 years old, my parents, God bless them, sent me on a 60-day, 20-country trip of Europe. I got to see Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, England. I've seen all these places. Some of them I go back to. Some of them, like I've seen it once. I don't want to see that stuff. I don't
Where
want to
would you
go.
go back?
I don't want to go back and see Rome. If I go back, I want to go to the underground catacombs. When I was in Kuwait for 7 months, and a friend of mine who worked for the military took me and a buddy out to remember the Highway of Death in the first Gulf War?
Yeah.
No, I've never gotten there, but I wish I could. Remember the Highway of Death during the first Gulf War when we blew apart the Iraqi? They just towed all the vehicles over a sand dune and left them. So my friend that took me and another friend, we're walking around all these vehicles. We're picking up souvenirs, and there's wild dogs running around.
So where's the scariest place you've been?
You want to know the scariest place I have been? The only time I felt threatened was on a subway going through a bad suburb of Paris.
Really?
There was a very bad element on the train, and me, a friend of mine, and his wife, and that was the only time I was scared, and that was the only time I felt like I might not make it out of this.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm also, so you don't think. Yeah, but when he does tie you up, he does bring you good food. So
he gives you a safe word.
Like I was in Kuwait once, and there was this at the train yard. The Air Force had blown up a train of Iraqi guard, and there was this Iraqi Soviet-made tank on its side with the turret on the ground. So naturally, we're CIA, but everybody's like kids. So we all go down there and we're all taking photographs, 1 foot in the tank, holding the gun in the air. And I sent it to my wife at the time, and my wife sent me an email, and she says, "You're an asshole. Have you looked in the ground?" And we looked at the photo. Dozens of unexploded ordnance, mortar rounds, tank shells, just laying there. I didn't tell her that my friends and I went to the Iran-Iraq battlefield. Like we're driving down the road with mines on either side of the cars.
Well,
so I mean,
if you could go back to any country and live, where would you have gone?
South Korea. I spent 3 years living in Seoul, and I loved it. I was fortunate enough. I wasn't living on the military base. I was living in a housing complex right near the U.S. Embassy, since that's where I worked. I loved Korea. The Koreans are some of the nicest people I've ever met. You make a friend in Korea, you make a friend for life. And there was this, I love telling these stories. Right around the corner from my house, across from one of the imperial palaces, was this old little coffee shop. And people could smoke cigarettes in Korea. And I used to go there on my day off, with my pen and paper and that. And I would write and smoke a cigar. And the woman who owned it, the mama-san who owned it, she loved me. I don't know why, she took me in as her own. And one day, her husband couldn't stand me. He came in and he made me put out the cigar. So I put out the cigar, and then she comes in, she looks, her eyes widen, and she goes out in the kitchen and she's yelling and screaming at him. And you could hear her, and all of a sudden he comes out and he drops an ashtray on the table and he walks away. So then she comes out and she goes, smoke. So I lit up a cigar. So a couple of weeks later, I'm smoking. He comes in. He takes this huge fan, floor-mounted fan, puts it right in front of my table. So the smoke, the wind is blowing on me to blow the smoke back in my face. She comes in 5 minutes later. She saw this. She freaked. She goes out and back. You could hear her yelling and screaming at him. He comes out. He rips the cord out of the wall, gives me a dirty look, brings it back. She comes out and gives me a nice coffee. And then, like one time, I'm waiting for my my first wife, and this young Korean girl was watching me, and she comes over. Now, I did not speak a word of English. I can barely speak English. So she comes down and she sits in front of me and she starts talking to me. At first, it's very popular in Korea for Koreans who are learning English to sit down and chat with you and like, hey, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Will you talk English with me? She didn't know any English. So I kept on pointing to my wedding ring. And she just stood there and kept on talking and kept on talking. And after about 10 minutes, the mama-san comes over and starts yelling at her and pointing her finger at her and pointing to me and pointing her, wagging her finger at her. So she gets up and moves. So a little later, my wife comes in and she sits down and the woman leaves. And the mama-san comes out with this huge bowl of this huge hot fudge sundae and puts it in front of my wife. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she backs into the kitchen. And my wife looks at me and goes, what did you do? She was protecting me. But I've had a lot of great Korean friends. They're some of they're the sweetest, kindest people. I loved living in Korea. I would go back there and live there in an instant.
That part of the world is an area I'd really like to go.
Oh, yeah. No, I loved it. I've been all over Europe. I've been all over Asia, and I've been to several places in the Middle East. I've been very fortunate. I admit it. I got to travel so many places. I've got to see so many things. I've got to do things that some people only dream about. So,
Well, you have definitely lived your life. I think that's one of the things that makes you a great
well,
writer.
thank you. And yeah, a lot of the places I visited have made it into books. Like if you read the Vampire Hunters series, or if you read the Shattered World, I went with two friends of mine once. We did a tour early 2000, Normandy to the Battle of the Bulge, and she spoke fluent French, so she arranged us to spend the night at the hotel on Mont Saint Michel, that beautiful island castle
Mhm.
in the middle of the bay. And one night, midnight, when all the tourists were gone, we walked around the island for 2 or 3 hours. It was
Oh, wow.
beautiful, and I just took notes. I took tons of pictures, and it's made it into a couple of books.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, which is your favorite series that you've written so far?
I will be truthful. I like them all. Nurse Alyssa, I really enjoy writing. I'm enjoying writing the Chronicles of Paul. Because Nurse Alyssa, I try to keep it more realistic, but it was sort of like I want to write one of these. I want to write a zombie series that's more like Z Nation, more like Army of the Dead. So writing the Chronicles of Paul, that's what it's going to be. It's all going to be like the movie Dead Rising. It's going to be unique kills. There's going to be a lot of humor in it. But my favorite series is the first series I ever wrote, The Vampire Hunters. I
Well, I will have to. I've been threatening to buy all of the books of all of the weird kids, and so that's going to be my goal is to get the vampire books. So,
okay. It's the rabbit in the book that Drake Matthew owns is based on one of the rabbits I had. Drake Matthews is me. It's my fantasy version of me. He's a cigar smoking, iced coffee drinking, whiskey loving, rabbit loving vampire hunter who gets himself in more trouble than not. And Allison, not based on my wife, because this was before I knew her. Allison is based on a young woman I worked with who was gorgeous, who was brilliant, and who always kept him out of trouble. Whenever he got into trouble, she
okay,
bailed
I'm
him
going to
out.
stop you here, and you should say that you were channeling your wife before you met her, and
Yeah.
say all those things.
No, but I mean, I'm not saying my wife isn't
No,
that, but I just enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the books. One of the things I loved doing was every movie and every book almost every movie and every book with bad vampires, they're monsters. Period. They're two-dimensional. I didn't want to do that. So I actually created a group of vampires that are main characters. They have backstories. Why did this one become a vampire? Why did this one become a vampire? How did they react? And
Well,
it's one of my favorite series.
I'm that that's gonna be my next Scott Baker read because I
Great.
love vampires, and I'm really interested in you've been writing these, Ghost of Salem Village, the Tatiana books, and I
Yes.
like that too, but, but yeah, so I was wondering about the vampire because you don't really promote those anymore, but I'm gonna read those. I
I'm
think that's probably my
going to
style.
I'm going to stop promoting all the books. I've been working on producing good advertisement ads. I've made sure all the books are on listed as series on Amazon, so I can do like one link to all 3 or 4 or however many books. And I'm going to be doing a lot more promoting of that in the future.
Good. And I do have when I got a list of all of your books, I updated it on your Weird Realities page too, so it's all there.
Oh, thank you.
And when we get this video out, I will be putting the video on your webpage there too. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I've got a lot of cool stuff. I'm doing my third Tatiana book, The
yes,
Ghosts of the Maria Doria. It's a ghost aboard a haunted cruise
you're
ship. We
you're so creative. I just don't know where. I mean, it's inspiring.
Thank you. It's just an overactive, warped imagination. I've got an idea I want to do called It's a Dead World After All. It's about a zombie outbreak at Disneyland.
That sounds fun.
I
Not really,
just
but I mean, it does. It sounds fun to
no,
me.
I've got this one scene written out where they have this big fight with zombies during the It's a Small World ride. I mean, what could be more funnier than having to beat a zombie to death while the things are going, it's a small world after all. Having all the Disney princesses as zombies attacking you. I just don't have time to write that one. I have a screenplay that I'm going to be turning into a novel, Jurassic Ark. Friend of mine in Hollywood read it. He loves it. He's going to try to help me get it placed, but I want to turn it into a book. It's it's a sci-fi classic. 65 million years ago, just before the meteor hit that wiped out the dinosaurs, 10 spaceships take off with dinosaurs in them. They come back to present day, drop off the dinosaurs, and all hell ensues.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. You know,
Landa, when he does this movie, we're gonna have to ask him to send us to Hollywood for the premiere because you suggested that we do those Dino movies the other week.
hey, I'll see if I can get you in. Get you a seat. That's going to be like one of my things. You can have the book, you can do what you want with it, but I want to die in the movie. Let me be the guy that gets eaten by a
We
T-Rex.
just want to go. I don't know about Landa, but I just want to go to the premiere.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can get you there. Yes, Londa, you too.
Well, Scott, we're coming up on 40 minutes, and
Wow.
tell us what you're working on right now. I know you've got
Mhm.
the Tatiana, but
I've got the
what else? Because
Tatiana.
you are always doing about 6 things at once.
I've got the Tatiana book. I'm finishing up the first round of edits. I'm looking to get the book out around mid-August, but that's going to depend on when I can get the book cover. I've started working on the second Chronicles of Paul book. This one is going to be fun. I've already got where they're going to have the two main battle scenes. It's really got, it does, like I said, it does have a little bit more of a Z Nation flair to it that, all the kills in this one are going to be something you would expect in a movie. Then I'm,
Well, do the Chronicles of Paul stand alone? I mean, do you have to read the Nurse Alyssa
no,
to?
you don't. No, you don't. Nurse Alyssa constantly mentions in several of her books her survivalist husband, Paul. He's the one that created the
Yeah.
cabin. What I decided to do was, what happened to Paul? Paul is in Pittsburgh when the crap hits the fan. So this is his chronicles of what he does during the zombie apocalypse and his own group of people. But he's a bit more, he's a survivalist. He knows more. So the book's got a little bit more of an action flair to it than the Nurse Alyssa, which has a horror flair. And then I'm plotting out the ninth the ninth Nurse Alyssa book, which is I'm gonna sort of get away from the Slade thing a little bit. I want to go back and do some special things. If Nurse Alyssa if Nurse Alyssa survived the end of book 8, I'm working on Jurassic Ark. I am working to get the Rada World series put together in a box set. So, that way it'll just be quick and easy to buy them. I've got 3 short stories that will be coming out in the next few months. There's the one for Horror Writers Inc. God, I can't remember which one that was. I think that was The Dead Don't Die. It's about an ER room where on Halloween night, the dead will not die. They cannot die, no matter how bad. One body's completely burnt. There's like 10% of the body left. The victim won't die. I got another story, A Father's Love, which I think you read, the post-apocalyptic one, which is like one of the sickest.
I've actually read both of these, and they're really good.
Okay. And then I've got a short story. There's a great graphic novel series, Vlada, a Dracula tale. You can find it on Amazon. I read it. I liked it. It's a reverse Dracula. All the male characters are female. Van Helsing, Dracula, Renfield, they're all women. Nina Harker, the brides, they're all males.
Interesting.
It's well written. The artwork is fantastic. And they reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be part of the anthology they're making. So I jumped at the chance. So I took the Grooms of Dracula, the Grooms of Vlada, and I did their backstory. That should be coming out hopefully by the end of the year.
So, I'm excited about that. That sounds great.
But definitely go pick up, Vlada, a Dracula tale, a graphic novel on Amazon. So you'll understand the second book.
I will do that, because that sounds like my jam. I love vampire stories, which I think you know.
Yeah.
So.
And this one is really good. I mean, this one was very well written. It's got a gothic feel to it. That's what I liked. And that's why when I wrote the story, I tried to give mine a little bit of a gothic feel to it. So
good. I'm excited. That sounds like it'll be a really good read.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot. I know it's been a while since I've really published anything. But that's because I've been like working on so many projects at once. But I'm getting back, and it's going to be, for the next year or two, it's going to be a Tatiana book, a Paul book, a Nurse Alyssa. Tatiana, Paul, Nurse Alyssa.
So how long are you going to write the Nurse Alyssa series?
I don't know. I was thinking of ending it around book 10.
Isn't that where you're at?
No, I'm at book 9. The next book will be book 9. But I'm getting a lot of people saying, no, go with it. So we'll have to see what happens. I have another series that I am aching to do. The first book is written. It just hasn't been edited. I've got the next 5 or 6 out, and I really want to do it. But I just have to have the time. And with the 3 series going, I don't want to add a 4th. It's called OSS, Office of Occult Services. It's pretty much fun. It's the MI6 and OSS fighting Nazi occultism during World War II.
Well, I love that kind of stuff. So that sounds good.
And the first book, they are battling. Oh God, I can't think of the 4 evil women. What do they call them?
The 4 evil women.
I can't think of it. It's they're 4 demons. It's after 12 here. My mind is going blank. but it's them battling the four, because what it is, it's these four, it's these women. They have the influence, and they starting to influence in the early years of the war British commanders to make poor decisions, so the Nazis win the war.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
oh yeah,
I love it. I love creative people, and you are someone that you're constantly coming up with new and exciting things,
well,
and
thank
that
you.
is lovely. It's
I
wonderful to see.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
And
And
I know I'm not just giving you lip service. I mean, I
no,
really
no,
believe this. I wouldn't say it.
no, I
But
know you wouldn't, and that means a lot to me. It does.
but that's I love the group of people that we have here on Weird is
Oh
we
yeah,
have so many exciting,
yeah.
creative minds,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's just always interesting to
and
see what's
and across the board
new.
too. You know, it's the occult, it's ancient civilizations, it's all this stuff. It's just it's fast. I love doing the occasional murder mystery and mayhem.
Oh, I know. We need to do another one.
Those are fascinating. I love the watching weird. You know, that's my favorite part of the week is Thursday night. I want to try to do more watching weird news. I'm
Well,
going to try to do a series of more movie reviews.
well, and I try and tell you this because I know that you overcommit, and I know that you don't mean to because you want to do it all. Because I'm the same way. But the way we operate is we are here when you have time for us.
I know,
You
but I
know.
want to have time for you because I love you guys.
Well, we love you too.
Oh,
Thursdays are definitely the highlight of my week, and I look forward to every time we get people like Landa that show up. And now we've got Max, and we've got just all these great people who are coming every week now. It's growing, and it's a wonderful thing to see
and
and be part
and
of.
every week my mother watches. My
Well,
my 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 10-year-old nephew sets her up with a computer and she watches. She doesn't know how to use the computer, but she's watching, you know. That's why we never see her comments. So
well, that is still awesome.
yeah,
But
so she gets to watch, and I mean it's great that she. I love the fact that she shows such interest in what I'm doing. There's a lot, so many of my friends out there just had parents that didn't care. You know, and my mother is, you know, she's 80 years old and she's still watching my podcast, you know, on Thursday
that's
nights.
that's pretty phenomenal right
It
there.
is. She's pretty
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Well, obviously, she gave birth to you, and she created this great mind that we all
Oh,
love.
and she created my sister, but yeah, what the good is the bad. No, if my sister will be watching this, and right now she's giving the computer screen a finger, I'll get a bad text from her later.
Well, well, that's gonna do it for Landa saying your mom is obviously awesome. She
Thank
is,
you,
no,
Landa.
but that's gonna do it for us. It's a little bit past our 45-minute mark, and
Oh,
I'll get this up and I will send it out tomorrow.
all
And
right.
get some rest. I know you don't sleep at night, but
No, I'm not. I'm a night owl, so.
you're a vampire. Let's face it.
I really think I am. You know, it's like when the sun comes up, it's like, well, I can see my face in the mirror, so it can't be too bad.
Well, it is always a pleasure.
Thank
I
you.
would love to continue doing these every now and then so people can get to know the real Scott Baker and a little step more than the amazing mind that creates all this wonderful art. But definitely,
You're
if
making
you
me
have
blush.
some time, let's do it again.
Anytime.
Well, I say, Scott, all the girls love you.
I
It's just the
know.
truth. All the girls
I
love you.
know. I'm just. It makes me humble. No, humble is the one thing I never am. But
Well, but again, the next time you have a little bit of time and you want to talk, just let me know. We'll set it up and we will have another live stream of
and
this for your
and
fans.
everyone out here who's on the line now, or anybody who watches this, I am open. If you got a question you want to ask me, just either put it on my page or direct message me. I'm very open. I love talking with my fans. That's one of the best parts of being a writer is interacting with the fans. You know, one of my favorite
Definitely.
things when I go to there's a few conventions I go to where they set up several how to write, how to publish seminars. And I love those. I love talking to the people who are aspiring writers.
Well, and this is, for those same people, if they're interested, that's one of the things that we're trying to do here with Weird Realities is we're definitely going to be setting some people up, which I'm sorry. I've got the boo over here talking in the background. But we definitely want to put people like Scott, Joe, Alan, Rich with people who are looking for questions and looking for some, mentoring. Is y'all are amazing and y'all
Yeah.
have been so helpful to me. So definitely want to share the love.
Like you need our help. I mean, come on.
I do.
No, you don't. So
But you're sweet. But it's nighttime. Boo is making me let him go potty before we go to bed. So I will talk to y'all tomorrow.
All right,
Always.
Hadley, it was great talking to you. Everybody, thank you. One thing about us artists, whether we're writers, musicians, painters, whatever, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the support we get from you. I love my fans. I love my readers. I love everybody who tunes in. You guys make it worthwhile. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, it's, I love it when people like read my book and come back. And I don't even mind if they criticize it, but I'm a storyteller. I like you guys to enjoy the story. So.
Well said. That is so true.
All right.
And on that little, Boo is now sitting on Mayhem's head. I've got to go. Love you guys, and we will see you soon.
Take it easy.
Night.
Bye-bye.